Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another vid. You know what? I thought I would go ahead and do something a little different this time around. So now I'm gonna go back to boxing history. I know that kind of pissed a lot of people off, some people off when I talk about history, especially when it doesn't suit their narrative. But anyway, this video is not about that. I want to talk about a fight that does not really get mentioned at all, as my time as even being a commenter, or then when I eventually became a video uploader. But the fight that I want to talk about here is the Joey Gamache and the Arturo Gatti fight. And those who've watched the sport for a very long time, they would, you guys know who you are. You would know exactly what I'm about to refer to pertaining to this particular fight. Now, the Arturo Gatti Joey Gamache fight had a lot of controversy surrounding it. Okay, the fight took place in the year 2000. I forgot the actual date. Anyways, what was it? February, I think. February 26th. Yeah, February 26th. The year 2000, the fight took place in Madison Square Garden. Okay, on that night of the fight, Joey Gamache and Arturo Gatti had agreed that the fight will take place at a catch weight of 141 pounds, which is 1 pound above the light welterweight limit. Okay, thus making it a catch weight welterweight fight. Oddly enough. So anyhow, both men weighed in at 141 pounds. Actually, Joey Gamache weighed in 140 comfortably, and Arturo Gatti has struggled to make that weight. He struggled to make that weight. He came in at around 141. Okay. Which is no surprise there, because Gatti's had issues making weight in the past for some of his fights. But anyways, after the weigh-in, Arturo Gatti rehydrates up to 160 pounds, which is a goddamn middleweight limit, right? And Gamache only rehydrate up to 146, right? So if you look at the obviously if you look at the image here, and you look at the how both men were facing off with each other at the before the first bell in the ring, you can clearly see that Arturo Gatti not only had the height advantage, but he had an enormous size advantage over this guy, over Joey Gamache. Okay, now Gamache was trying to display the strategy of trying to stay on the outside and box Gatti from the outside, trying to make sure that he doesn't give him a chance of throwing his shots, and he didn't want to take the chance of trying to fight Gatti in the inside. So apparently, Gatti had not only the power advantage or the strength advantage, but he also had the reach advantage over Gamache. And Gamache was put down with a straight right in the first round, and he was dazed. He was he was hurt, but he didn't look entirely hurt from that punch. But not until he was still taking some shots to the head from a left hook from Gatti. And then there was one particular shot at the end of the bell, after the bell, where Gatti hit Gamache with a monstrous left hook, and Gamache was staggering in the ring. He went to the wrong corner, then he eventually went to his right corner, to the actual corner, and to my surprise, the referee, or not the referee, I'm sorry, the corner didn't even pull him out. But, all fairness to the corner and the ring doctor, they did the ring physicians, they did ask Gamache, "Are you okay? Do you know where you are?" And Gamache responded by saying, "Yes, I'm in the Gatti fight at Madison Square Garden." Okay, you would believe that he is ready to go. When he got out of the corner, he did look like he was, he did have some of his legs in there to try to box with Gamache. I'm sorry, with Gatti. But the fact is that Gatti had landed a couple shots without, couple free shots, I would call it, because Gamache wasn't protecting himself. He was keeping his hands low, and then one left hook had sent Gamache to the ground, and he hit his head to the canvas, and he was really hurt badly. And that ended the fight. The referee didn't even make a full 10 count. So he got up, though. What's surprising about this, he got up. It seemed like he was okay. He was on the ground for a couple minutes or so. He did get up. He was able to stand up on his own will, but he was taken to the hospital. And for what I've learned, he nearly died because Gamache had, from the results of the injuries of that fight, because Gamache had suffered permanent brain damage. Okay, and thus that caused him to retire after that fight. Okay, But it didn't end there because, Gatti got a lot of criticism for the fact that he was being a weight bully in that fight, okay? Now, Gamache and his team has sued Gatti for negligence and the New York State Athletic Commission because, particularly the New York State Athletic Commission, because they claimed not only negligence, they also were claiming that Gatti, they have allowed Gatti to manipulate the weight, the pre-fight weigh-in, okay, which is, I find that pretty astonishing, okay, because their claims was also including that they believed that when Gatti was struggling to make that weight 141 pounds, they believed that the weight scales was manipulated in favor of Gatti to make it seem like he was going to make the weight. And Thomas Hauser, we all know who he is, supported that claim, right? And I got this article here from Bad Left Hook. I'm gonna read the quote here for Thomas Hauser. He said here, quote, "Look, I don't know anybody outside of Gotti's camp who seriously maintains that he actually made the weight for that fight. Look, they jumped him off and on from the scale very quickly. Now, it seemed pretty clear to me that someone at the commission had been told in advance that there might be a problem, and the response was, don't worry about it." So there's a conspiracy right there, and that's where the negligence claim has came from, the Gamache camp. Okay, now we all know that Gatti at the time was a cash cow. Believe it or not, he's a cash cow. He draws a lot of crowds. I mean, he's a crowd-pleasing fighter, so he was the name. But again, it does not prove the fact that negligence was part of play here. Okay, now, from my understanding, though, if I go back and research this a little further, Gamache, obviously during the lawsuit, the judge who was presiding the case was Melvin Schweitzer, right? Schweitzer, sorry, I forgot, I'm butchering his name. He did find the fact that, even though I felt that there was no negligence that could be proven on the State Athletic Commission, but New York State Athletic Commission, he found that the fact that the State Athletic Commission was in negligence of handling the pre-fight weight situation, okay, which Thomas Hauser was referring to, which I will somewhat disagree with. But nonetheless, the judge couldn't find any type of negligence at all, where the weight gain by Gatti was going to be a precursor when it came to the permanent injuries that was caused on Gamache. So Gamache was not awarded in that particular situation. All right. Now, due to the controversy of the Arturo Gatti and the Joey Gamache fight, it kind of inspired a lot of regulators in boxing, boxing regulators to implement new laws push a new law where it allows a limitation of fighters to gain to rehydrate to a certain amount of weight after a weigh-in. So obviously I haven't seen any laws that have taken place after that fight. However, I could point out that the IBF did implement some type of policy. Perhaps this will inspire them to do that, to implement a rehydration policy, a morning day weigh-in, that you can't gain no more than 10 pounds after the first weigh-in. So that could be why the IBF has this particular policy due to the Gamache and the Gatti fight. I could be wrong about that, but needless to say, though, we still see fighters today that rehydrates to gotten in nearly 20 plus pounds after weigh-ins. Like, for example, Joshua Clottey was notorious for doing that, and when his welterweight fights, when he would come in like goddamn nearly 170 pounds in them fights. Keith Thurman coming in around 163, 164. I mean, all welterweights are doing that these days, coming in and goddamn over the middleweight limit. So, 15, 18, 17 pounds over the weight limit day after weigh-in, I should say. So, but anyhow, the aftermath, Joey Gamache, obviously, again, as I previously mentioned, he retired after that fight. And he went on to become a trainer up in his home state of Maine. But due to the brain damage that he suffered, which is permanent, he's had some psychotic episodes after that, which is sad for him. And Arturo Gatti, on the other hand, we all know that he was murdered infamously murdered. He went on to have bigger fights, even though he didn't win it, particularly with Floyd Mayweather. He didn't win those fights, or Carlos Baldomir. I mean, Jesus, got knocked out by Baldomir. But other than that, he went on to become a Hall of Famer. Wow. But to be fair, though, Arturo Gatti did win a world title at junior welterweight. So, yeah. I just thought I would go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a boxing history on this particular fight. And, but the one thing I have to add, though, is that Gamache's team cannot prove negligence when they claim that Gatti had violated the weight clause in their agreement, but there was no clause that stipulates that Gatti had to agree to a certain weight hydration limit. So I think that was another point that the judge had looked at and said, well, where's your proof that there was some type of agreement where Gatti could not rehydrate to a certain amount of weight going into the fight? So that's where they lost on that sense. So anyways, lost the case in that sense for Gamache. So anyhow, let me know what your thoughts about this. I'll post some various articles pertaining to the story, and I'm going to come up with another video that's going to be pretty shocking to some of you. I'm going to restart my series on the fights that were supposed to happen and why, what prevented that particular fight from happening. So what I mean by that is that they were pretty much close to signing a deal, or they were signed, but for some reason those fights were called off. So you get my drift on that. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts about this controversial fight. I'm out. Peace.